Listening 3 PBIS4222 Modul 3 Reconstructing Context. Module 3. This module talks about reconstructing context. The topics will be learned of Module 3 are grouping objects, person, and public places, using pieces of information to form a context. Unit 1. Grouping objects, person, and public places. Module 3, Unit 1, Subunit 1, Grouping Objects. Buying a new car.
All right, where do we start?
I think we should draw up a list of advantages and disadvantages for each car, don't you?
Yes, okay. Okay, let's start with the Renault 5. Why did you like that? I thought it was rather expensive, actually.
Well, it's £6,675. That's for a TSE model with a 5-speed gearbox.
That's more than we can really afford, you know, George.
Yes, I suppose it is, but it has got a 1400cc engine.
The same as the Ford Escort.
Yes, and 100cc is bigger than the MG Metro.
Yeah, but the MG is a lot of cheaper. It's almost £400 cheaper.
Alright, let's look at the MG then. It's got a 1300cc engine, costs £6,299. What about petrol? Have you got the MPG figures?
Yes. According to this, the MG does 56 miles per gallon. That's very good, don't you think?
Yes, but the Renault does exactly the same. And that's got a bigger engine, remember?
Actually, they're all about the same on petrol. Look, the Escort does 57. How much does it cost?
Escort. Well, the GL, that's the 1400cc one, that costs £7,182.
George, we simply can't afford to go over £6,500.
I know. I think that means we can forget the Volkswagen Golf too, don't you?
How much is it?
$8,090. That's for the GL model with a 1600cc engine. And it only does 47 miles per gallon. Yeah, it's too big and we can afford it.
Okay, so what about the Peugeot 205 then?
Well, the 3-doors XS model costs £6,225. It's got a 1400cc engine.
How about petrol?
It does 54 mpg, according to this. I think it looks great.
I know you do. You like it because it looks more like a sports car than the others.
It also looks the most modern, don't you think?
Have they all got 3 doors?
The MG has 3. The Golf has 5. But we can't forget about the Golf. The Escort has 5 and the Renault has got 3.
Do you really think the MG is as reliable as the others?
Probably not. I don't know, but probably not.
Module 3, Unit 1, Subunit 2, Grouping Persons. Profession in United States of America.
In 1870, nearly 75% of professionals were in medicine, the ministry, law or teaching, compared with only 34% at present. These occupations have grown over the years, but at a slower rate than some of the newer professions. For example, there are 4 times as many doctors today as in 1870, while the number of persons in scientific, engineering, and related fields has increased almost 30 times. There are more than 2.5 million full-time teachers. The nation's public elementary schools employ 1.4 million teachers and several thousand principals and supervisors. The colleges and universities employ about 600,000 scholars and educators. There are about 2 million physicians, pharmacists, dentists, and nurses. The educational requirements for these professions are high, ranging from at least 2 years of college-level training for nurses to at least 8 years of college study and hospital experience for physicians. The United States has more than 1 million engineers who design and develop everything from household goods to space satellites. In addition to a bachelor's degree from an engineering school, many engineers obtain advanced degrees. The age of science has created a heavy demand for persons trained in chemistry, physics, biology, and mathematics. About 300,000 men and women work in these fields, a huge increase since 1930. The science professions require at least 4 years of college training. There are 865,000 professional accountants and auditors, including about 17,300 certified public accountants or CPAs. To qualify as a CPA, one must pass examinations and meet educational and experience requirements established by state laws. There are about 400,000 lawyers, most of whom are in private practice. The federal government employs about 29,000 and a similar number work for state and local governments. Lawyers must have 4 years of college and 3 years of professional training in a law school. They must also pass an examination given by the state in which they want to practice.
Module 3, Unit 1, Sub-Unit 3. Grouping Public Places. Good pubs.
Good pubs are ones that have something special to offer. They are not just good locals, and they are not simply pubs that have either good food or good beer, though most in fact have both. What singles them out is just one word: enjoyment. These are the pubs that even a perfect stranger going for the first time will enjoy, feel at home in, and look forward to visiting again. Many factors are involved in this. It may be the atmosphere, a cozy, well-kept parlor with a blazing log fire, comfortable old-fashioned seats, snack nooks and corners, or a civilized hostelry on a grander scale with antique furniture and polished and relaxed atmosphere that seems to come from centuries of experience. It may be the surroundings. We go out of our way to find good pubs in beautiful villages, in striking countryside for walks and drives, or with especially good waterside positions. It may be good food. Anything from a helping of black peas or really good sandwich through the best range of cheeses we have found in any pub to full meals that outclass what restaurant in the area can produce and score by being cheaper. It may be uncommon hospitality, a warm welcome that goes even beyond a friendliness you expect to find in a decent pub, and by and large publicans are remarkably friendly and welcoming breed. It may be something special in the drinks line. A pub brewing its own beer or making its own cider or stocking more whiskeys than you have ever set eyes on, or over 60 draught beers or over 100 different bottled beers from all around the world, or making several punches and mulled wines in winter.
Module 3, Formative Test 1, Value for Money.
Hello and welcome to this week's Value for Money. Now, Janet, you have been looking at coffee machines for us this week. Is that right? Surely, they are all more or less the same, aren't they?
Hello, Martin. Well, that's just what I thought too. You just pour in the water, spoon in the coffee, switch on the machine, and wait. Well, not exactly. We tested 5 machines. The Caffematic 25, made in West Germany. The Coffee Master Deluxe, made in the UK. The Domestika Electric Coffee Pot from Czechoslovakia. The Aroma Cup 2000, another one from Britain, that one. And finally, the Cafatelli Automatic, which, as its name suggests, is made in Italy.
Okay, and what did we find?
Well, the first thing we looked at was the price. And we found a difference of £10 between the cheapest and the most expensive.
So how much is the Caffematic?
That's the most expensive. It's £29.95.
And the cheapest?
The Domestika. That was only £19.95.
So why doesn't everyone buy a Domestika then?
Well, it's not as simple as that. They don't all make the same amount of coffee. But let me give you the prices of the others first. The Coffee Master is £25.75. The Aroma Cup is $22.50. And the Cafeteria costs $26.95.
You said they don't all make the same amount of coffee.
That's right. You get 12 cups of coffee from the Caffematic, but only 8 from both the Coffee Master and the Domestika. The Cafeteria gives you about 9 cups, and you get 10 cups out of the Aroma Cup.
So how can you decide which machine is the best value for money?
Well, Martin, you look at all the extras.
Extras?
That's right. You see, with the Caffematic you get 1 kilo coffee and 1 packet of filter papers absolutely free, and the machine has a plug.
That sounds good.
Yes, none of the other machines has a plug when you buy it.
The Caffematic is the only one.
Yes, you have to buy a plug separately for all the other machines.
Do you get free coffee with all of them?
Not at all. As I said, you get 1 kilo with the Caffematic, but you get none at all with the Coffee Master, the Domestika, or the Cafeteria. And with the Aroma Cup, you only get a half kilo packet.
And what about filter papers?
Well, there's a little better. You get a packet of filter paper free with every machine we tested, except the Domestika.
I suppose filter papers are cheaper to give away free than coffee.
I suppose so.
What about guarantees?
Each one comes with a 12-month guarantee.
Janet, it's really very difficult to know which is the best value for money.
Module 3, Unit 2, Using pieces of information to form a context. Module 3, Unit 2, Subunit 1. Narration. A personal experience.
Anything like that ever happened to you, John?
Yes, strangely enough. While you were talking, I remembered something that happened to me while I was on holiday in Switzerland.
Oh, when was that?
Oh, it must have been about 10 years ago, I think.
Yes.
Well, as I say, we'd gone to Switzerland for a week's holiday.
That's you and your wife, Pam, is it?
Yes. Anyway, we hired a car and went up into the mountains.
Had you ever driven abroad before?
Oh, yes. Pam and I had done some touring in France, and I'd driven in Germany some years before that when I was a student there. So I wasn't worried about driving on the right, if that's what you mean.
Yes.
No, we set off. It was a beautiful day, I remember. Brilliant sunshine, and the scenery was fantastic. But we should have stopped when it started getting a little misty. We didn't. We went on driving up these typical Swiss mountains roads. You know, all twists and turns. Quite a strain after a while, actually.
Yes, I know. I've done some of it.
Anyway, after a while, the mist turned to fog, and then the fog became quite thick. I turned on my headlights, but I still couldn't see the road very well. And the strange thing was that we began to realize that we hadn't passed any other traffic coming down for quite some time. What I mean is, quite a lot of traffic had been coming down while we were climbing up. But all of a sudden, we seemed to be the only car on the road.
Strange.
Yes, it was. And Pam began to get a bit nervous. Not surprisingly, really, because we were both straining to see the road. Anyway, the fog got so thick in the end that I just had to stop. I couldn't see where I was going. Then I put on the hazard lights just in case another car should come up behind us, and I got out and walked ahead. About 20 yards in front of the car, the road ran out.
Gosh.
I mean, there was no road, just space.
Oh, good Lord. You were lucky.
So anyway, I managed to turn the car around and slowly drove back down.
What had happened?
Apparently, there had been some kind of landslide and the road had just dropped away. No cars were caught in it, fortunately, I heard afterwards. But it's not something you forget in a hurry.
No, I would have been terrified if I'd been there.
Module 3, Unit 2, Subunit 2. Description. Spotting the culprits.
Yes, she was darkish. I should think she was between 25 and 30,
Mm-hmm.
roundabout. And she had shortish hair. I think she had a fringe, bit untidy. She had a white collar, open-necked shirt, I think, or blouse, or what looked like a velvet jacket, but I can't remember the color.
I see.
I think it was a green or a brown, but it was some dark color. Yes, well, he was. I noticed he was wearing a funny kind of woolen jacket.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes. Not really very bulky. It looked as if it was knitted and it had a shot of woolen collar, and I think he was wearing an open-necked shirt too.
Yes.
He was younger than her, I think.
Yes.
I think he was about, well, I should think he was in his early 20s. She looked a bit older to me.
I see.
He had his hair brushed back. I think it was striped, but I can't be perfectly sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember his hair was sort of wavy and brushed back and shortish.
Module 3, Unit 2, Subunit 3. Exposition. A passage without a title 1.
Whales or their ancestors were once land animals. Scientists believe that they roamed the earth about 150 million years ago. The land-dwelling ancestors of this modern king of the sea were hunters with legs and the jaws and teeth of killers. Their favorite hunting grounds were probably shallow waters, near the mouths of rivers or off a level stretch of coast. For fish, both finny and shell were then more plentiful and easier to catch than animals. Because of this, these land mammals came to spend more and more time in the water. Ages passed, and these creatures swam more easily than they walked. Millions of years later, they were now recognizable as whales. Their forelegs had turned into the flippers that today's whales use for steering. Their hind legs had shrunk so that more traces of them can be found under the skin when a whale is dissected.
Module 3, Formative Test 2. A passage without a title 2.
Plants seem to know which way is up and which is down. Furthermore, they seem to know right from left. If a cutting from a Lombardy poplar is kept alive, new shoots will grow from the end that grew uppermost in the tree. There is no visible difference between the top and the bottom of the living stick, even under a microscope. Even so, the stick will not send out shoots from the end it views as bottom, even if this end happens to be on top. Scientists studying the subject further split their cuttings lengthwise. To their surprise, they made another interesting discovery. A good many more buds grew on the right-hand side of the split surface than on the left. They split the sticks again and found that the buds again grew on the right side. The result of the entire study showed a 60-40 preference for the right side, proving that growing plants are basically right-handed.
Module 3, Unit 3, reordering jumbled sentences. Module 3, Unit 3, Subunit 1, Biography. Bell's Great Invention.
I know it can be done, and I'm going to find the way. These words of determination were spoken by Alexander Graham Bell when he told scientists that he was trying to send human speech over an electric wire. Bell's determination to do what seemed impossible was the key to his success. It resulted in the invention of the telephone. Bell realized that to carry the human voice, he would have to create a continuous current of electricity that would vibrate with the tones of the voice, just as the air vibrates with a speaking voice. In other words, he would have to substitute electrical waves for the airwaves on which our voices are carried in face-to-face conversation. He arrived at this conclusion, not because he knew very much about electricity, which he did not, but because he understood the nature of sound and sound vibrations. Now he knew that the knowledge of electricity would also be necessary if he wanted to prove this theory and invent a practical instrument for sending the human voice over wires. First of all, however, he wanted to test his ideas on someone else, someone who was an expert, such as Joseph Henry, one of the great physicists of the day. So Bell traveled to Washington, D.C. to visit the famous scientist Joseph Henry, who was impressed by his earnestness and advised him to work out his theory with an electrician. Bell returned to Boston and got the help of Thomas Watson. The two worked as a team in the months that followed, with Watson supplying the electrical knowledge that Bell lacked. As spring turned into summer 1875, Bell and Watson labored night and day. They worked in a hot, dusty room at the boarding house where Bell lived and which he used as his laboratory. Bell sketched designs, Watson built them. They strung wires from one end of the house to the other and attached instruments at each end of the wire. Each would shout into his instrument, but the only voice either man heard came through the walls or up the halls, never through the instrument. Patiently, they either made adjustments or threw away the old instrument and started again. Equally patient, the other people in the house allowed them to string wires through their rooms and good-naturedly endured their fruitless shouting. Bell and Watson worked on, and summer was followed by autumn and winter. Then, on the 10th of March, 1876, success. Several years passed before the public regarded Bell's telephone as more than a toy to be exhibited at lectures. But Bell and Watson continued to improve their telephone and to display its practical use over increasingly long distances.
Module 3, Unit 3, Subunit 2, Story. The Origin of Muslim Field.
Almost 7 centuries ago, in Central Asia, there lived a great king called Tamerlane. He was a mighty, powerful, conquering soldier, and his greatest ambition was that one day he would rule a massive empire stretching from the Atlantic Ocean in the west to the Pacific Ocean in the east. He made his imperial capital in the oasis city of Samarkand which he planned to make the most beautiful city on earth. Many magnificent mosques were built and they were decorated with exquisite blue ceramic tiles on the outside and with pure gold on the inside. Tamerlane, like the great Oriental king that he was, had many wives, including a Chinese girl called Bibi Hanim. Now, Bibi Hanim was the most beautiful of all Tamerlane's wife, and as the youngest, she was also the most senior. She was his favorite wife, and she was deeply in love with him. In order to demonstrate her great love of Tamerlane, she decided to build a magnificent monument to honor him, while he was away fighting in a distant war. She engaged the best architect, who designed for her the most magnificent mosque you could imagine. And then she found the best master builder, who began work immediately. But as the weeks and months passed by, the master builder began to fall in love with Bibi Hanim. She resisted all his advances, but at last he threatened to leave the mosque unfinished, unless she allowed him to kiss her just once. Bibi Hanim wanted the beautiful mosque finished more than anything else. She was expecting Tamerlane to return any day, so at last she agreed to let her master builder kiss her just once. But that was her terrible mistake, for so powerful was the master builder's love for Bibi Hanim that when he kissed her, he left a permanent mark on her face. King Tamerlane returned and saw the guilty marks on his wife's face. The master builder was executed immediately, and then, thinking that a woman's beauty can be a dangerous thing, Tamerlane ordered that from that day and forevermore, all the women in the kingdom should never be seen in public without a veil to cover their face.
Module 3, Unit 3, Subunit 3. Feature. Making magazines.
Small magazines are put out by 2 or 3 persons, but the large general magazines are tremendously complicated operations. Suppose an author in Chicago or London or Calcutta has an idea for an article and sends that idea to an editor of one of the big illustrated general magazines. If the editor likes the idea, he discusses it with other editors, perhaps an overall article editor, a managing editor, and an editor-in-chief. If all of them want to publish the article, they send word to the author to go ahead. The finished article may be read by as many as 5 editors. Together they decide on the title. The title is more than a mere label. It helps the editors decide how the article will be treated in the magazine. Will they illustrate it with photographs or drawings? Will it be used in the front or back of the magazine? How long will it be? The text editor, who is in charge of the article until it appears, may send the manuscript back to the author for changes, corrections, shortening, or lengthening. He may send it back several times. But before he sends it, he has several copies made. One goes to the picture editor and another copy goes to the art department. They decide what kind of pictures the article should have. They may send a photographer to take new pictures, or they may commission an artist to do drawings or paintings. When all the photographs, drawings, or charts are gathered into the art department, the editors make a selection. With the title, text, and pictures before them, the art editors plan everything about the physical appearance of the article. Their carefully measured plan is called a layout. The layout is sent to the text editor, who estimates the number of words allowed. He cuts and edits the manuscript until he knows it will fit into the layout. Then he writes any picture captions or headlines needed and sends the whole layout to the managing editor. Meanwhile, the copy editor is checking every word for spelling, capitalization, usage, and punctuation. When all the magazine's pages have been planned, the layouts are put together in a dummy. This is a pasted-up copy of the magazine as it will appear in print. For then on, the printer is responsible for setting type, choosing inks, often in color, casting huge metal press forms, and rolling off millions of copies of each page. Then other machines bind the pages and address the copies, and the magazines are sent on their way to subscribers.
Formative test. Formative test 3. A light in the darkness.
Have you ever been at sea in a dense fog, when it seemed as if a tangible white darkness shut you in, and the great ship, tense and anxious, groped her way toward the shore with plummet and sounding line, and you waited with beating heart for something to happen? I was like that ship before my education began, only I was without compass and sounding line, and had no way of knowing how near the harbor was. "Light! Give me light!" was the wordless cry of my soul, and the light of love shone on me in that very hour. The morning after my teacher came, she led me into her room and gave me a doll. When I had played with it a little while, Miss Sullivan slowly spelled into my hand the word doll. I was at once interested in this finger play and tried to imitate it. When I finally succeeded in making the letters correctly, I was flushed with childish pleasure and pride. I did not know that I was spelling a word or even that words existed. I learned to spell in this uncomprehending way a great many words. One day, we walked down the path to the well house, attracted by the fragrance of the honeysuckle with which it was covered. Someone was drawing water, and my teacher placed my hand under the spout. As the school stream gushed over one hand, she spelled into the other the word water, first slowly, then rapidly. I stood still, my whole attention fixed upon the motions of her fingers. Suddenly, I felt a misty consciousness, as of something forgotten, a thrill of returning thought, and somehow the mystery of language was revealed new. Then that water meant the wonderful cool something that was flowing over my hand. That living word awakened my soul. Give it light, hope, joy, set it free. There were barriers still, it is true, but barriers that could in time be swept away. I left the well house eager to learn. Everything had a name, and its name gave birth to a new thought. As we returned to the house, every object which I touched seemed to quiver with life. That was because I saw everything with a strange, new sight that had come to me.
This is the end of audio module 3, Listening 3 PBIS4222.